This is a family business, as I said. It's your mother's father that started this business?
Well, my grandfather started Sam's Loan Office in the 1940s. 1978, I opened up American Jewelry and Loan, my wife and I. So it's a family business now with our children involved.
The only reason you're here right now is because we've been together for almost 25 years. And that is the only reason I'm going to give you another chance.
American Jewelry and Loan built Hardcore Pawn into one of TruTV's biggest hits, putting Detroit's most chaotic pawn shop on full display for 9 straight seasons. Week after week, they gave us a reason to fall in love with the show. But now it's over, and there's a lot about the cast's struggles that fans don't know. From a head of security caught red-handed on camera doing something questionable to a warehouse worker whose run ended in one furious moment. One name on this list is no longer with us. What's the real story behind these 10 faces? Stay with us till the end, as we look at how their struggles really ended. Ashley Gold-Broad. We start our list with the woman who ran the jewelry counter at American Jewelry and Loan, and walked away from a hit TV show at the height of its popularity. Meet Ashley Gold-Broad, Les Gold's daughter, and one of the 3 faces that made Hardcore Pawn must-watch TV on TruTV. The show followed the day-to-day chaos at the family's Detroit pawn shop on 8 Mile Road, and from the pilot episodes onward, Ashley was never a background player. She co-owned the shop alongside her father and brother, ran the jewelry department, and spent 9 seasons going toe-to-toe with Seth on camera over how the business should be run. Fans tuned in for the sibling rivalry. Ashley lived it every single day, on top of actually running a department. Though her role on the show looked simple to viewers at home, show up, sell jewelry, argue with your brother, her presence behind the scenes accomplished far more than the cameras ever let on. Then early 2016 arrived, and everything changed. Sitting down with WDIV's Karen Drew, Ashley finally said out loud what years of fans had only speculated about from a distance. The drama wasn't just entertainment, it was exhausting her. She was working too much, missing time with her husband and her 2 young kids, and had put on weight she blamed directly on the stress of the lifestyle. The whole environment, she said, was taking a real toll on her health. 3 months before that interview aired, the then 38-year-old Oakland County resident had already made her move. She walked out of the family business for good and launched Pawn Chick Shopping, an online jewelry store built entirely around her own eye for fashion trends. She didn't stop there either, going on to host a weekly celebrity interview podcast called Pawn Chick Radio, a project that let her keep working in fashion and jewelry without any of the shop floor chaos. Ashley made it clear she wasn't looking back. She told WDIV she doesn't miss the show, especially the craziness, but she wasn't bitter about her years there either. She credited Hardcore Pawn with teaching her how to negotiate, make deals, and stand up for herself. Skills, she said, she still leans on today. No firing, no scandal, no falling out with her father. Just a woman who decided her health and her kids mattered more than the cameras, and who had the means and the drive to walk away entirely on her own terms. But not everyone who left the show had it that easy, and as you'll find out, some left under far messier circumstances. So stay tuned. Rich Pyle. Next on the list is the man who spent 25 years keeping American Jewelry and Loan running behind the scenes, only to see it all unravel over one bad afternoon. This is Rich Pyle, the shop's longtime store manager and, for a long stretch of the show, one of its most beloved fixtures, known almost as well for playing in a rock band on the side as for the calm, steady presence he brought to an otherwise chaotic sales floor. Unlike Ashley or Seth, Rich wasn't family by blood. A quarter century on the job had made him one anyway, and fans had watched him earn that trust episode after episode. But then, something very interesting happened. Les grew irritated that Rich was taking too long negotiating a deal over a customer's call box, even as Seth stood up for him, insisting it was simply good business and nothing to worry about. Yet it only got worse from there. Distracted while checking a sale price elsewhere in the store, Rich Pyle left roughly $7,000 worth of gold jewelry sitting out, unattended, in front of a customer. Ashley caught it happening and told him flatly that what he'd done was a serious mistake, the kind that could genuinely cost the shop. Rich apologized immediately. Seth and Ashley accepted the apology without hesitation. Les didn't. Still nursing an unrelated grudge against Seth over the Pontiac store location, Les refused to give Rich the benefit of the doubt, and Rich was sent home. He returned to the shop the next day and tried to smooth things over, but the damage to the relationship was already done. Over the following episodes, Rich was gradually written out of the show, appearing less and less until he eventually left American Jewelry and Loan for good, with no real explanation ever offered to viewers on camera. But Rich's story didn't end in silence. He landed on his feet, going on to host Meltdown, a National Geographic series about the recycling of precious metals, which premiered in October 2013. After a quarter-century turning other people's discarded valuables into value, he'd simply found a new stage to keep doing it on, just without a gold standing over his shoulder second-guessing every move. Now, keep watching because the name on this list would really shock you. Bobby Janiac. 2016 was a difficult year for hardcore pawn fans because one of their most beloved cast members was gone. And that guy was Bobby Janiac, known to viewers simply as Bobby J. He wasn't security, he wasn't a gold, and he wasn't the store manager. He was just a store employee, and somehow that made him one of the most talked about faces on the entire show. Bobby J left a lasting impression on fans well before his exit, and one moment in particular stuck around for years afterward. His hair care with Bobby J segment. It was a recurring bit that became memorable enough that it was still being referenced in his interviews nearly a decade later. In a 2023 sit-down with Daily Express US, Bobby explained how his actual job worked day to day. Before the doors even opened, the crew would strap on his mic pack, wish him a good day, and let him get on with real work. He described being on the clock the moment the store opened, whether he was ringing up a sale, handling a loan, or moving jewelry, and said Les or Seth would only pull him into a segment when they wanted his take on a deal happening right in front of him. Then, after giving fans moments like that, 2016 arrived, and he left them in about the worst way possible, with no farewell episode, no explanation, and no on-air goodbye. One season, he was behind the counter. The next, he simply wasn't part of the shop anymore, and the show moved on without a mention. In the years since, Bobby has said on his own social media that he felt taken advantage of by Les Gold, pointing squarely at how he was treated and valued as an employee. Unlike some names on this list, though, he didn't vanish. He's built a life in Michigan since, staying active on social media, once calling himself, only half joking, a former TV pawn guy who's since left that world behind for good. Joel Big Joe Shannon. While most security guards on a reality show fade into the background, the head of security at American Jewelry and Loan managed to become one of the most memorable cast members on Hardcore Pawn for the worst possible reason. He was the man fans trusted to protect the shop, the one trading jabs with Seth and Les episode after episode, right up until the cameras caught him doing the one thing security is never supposed to do. Joel Shannon, known to viewers as Big Joe, came to American Jewelry and Loan as the head of security and held that role from season 1 through season 6, a run long enough to make him feel like a fixture of the shop rather than just an employee passing through. By his 6th season, what had been 6 years of trust built on camera collapsed in a single moment. Don't go anywhere, because how that trust got broken is the most shocking part of this whole story. You see, by the time season 6 wrapped, everything fans thought they knew about Big Joe fell apart in the space of a single finale. Joe was caught on camera collecting scrap gold that wasn't his to take, gold that was supposed to stay in the shop's inventory, not disappear into his own pocket. The footage aired right there in the season 6 finale, in front of the same audience who'd spent 6 years rooting for him week after week. He was arrested almost immediately after the incident became public, and the firing followed just as fast. 6 years of built-up trust, gone in the space of one episode, and there was no soft landing for how the show handled it. The tape simply spoke for itself. Unlike some names connected to this show, Big Joe didn't disappear afterward, and he didn't spend years dodging questions about what happened either. He rebuilt his life away from the cameras, and today he owns and operates High Gear Transportation, a trucking and logistics company based in Livonia, Michigan, where he lives with his wife Felice and their children. From head of security to business owner, it's a real second act, the kind reality TV rarely hands its most controversial cast members, even if this one started with one of the most jaw-dropping moments the show ever put on air. But it did not end there. Tresa Magun. Some new hires need a full season to prove themselves wrong. This one only needed a single episode, and the title practically wrote its own ending. Ashley brought on a new jewelry counter employee back in season 4 without running the decision past her father or her brother first. A choice that would come back to bite her almost immediately once the new hire settled in. That person's name was Tresa Magun. The introduction of Tresa became one of the season's most talked about episodes, and something very interesting happened almost as soon as the cameras started rolling on her. Staff began noticing questionable transactions tied to the new employee, small inconsistencies that didn't add up. It wasn't long before Tresa was caught taking items directly out of storage and quietly listing them for sale online, planning to pocket the profit for herself. Ashley, who had personally vouched for her, was the one who caught the scheme falling apart in real time. And what followed wasn't a quiet dismissal behind closed doors. It was a full confrontation, right there on the shop floor, in front of everyone. Tresa didn't survive the episode. She was fired before it even aired. Her entire run at American Jewelry and Loan compressed into a single half-hour of television, appropriately titled New Hire, Now Fire. That should have been the end of her story, but it wasn't. A full season later, Tresa walked back through the doors of American Jewelry and Loan to sell a Rolex she claimed to have bought online from the shop after her firing, only for her boyfriend to dispute the credit card charge, insisting she'd never actually received the watch in the first place. The episode, fittingly called Rematch Ashley vs. Tresa, made it painfully clear the tension between the two women hadn't cooled off in the time apart. If anything, it had hardened into something closer to a genuine rivalry, one both women seemed almost eager to revisit. But that was not all. That rivalry, as fiery as it looked on screen, turned out to be one of the last things most viewers ever saw of her. Tresa Magun passed away unexpectedly on May 10, 2017, in Bath, Michigan, at the age of 34. Her obituary, published in the Lansing State Journal, gave no public cause of death, only that it happened suddenly. She was laid to rest following services at New Hope Community Church in Charlotte, Michigan. remembered by family for the 2 brief, chaotic episodes that made her one of the show's more memorable minor characters. A legacy that, however combative it looked at the time, was never the whole story of who she was. Christina Silas Cook. 7 years is a long time to build trust with an employer, and for one window clerk at American Jewelry and Loan, those 7 years ended in about the most public way a workplace betrayal possibly could, caught on camera in front of a national television audience. Christina Silas Cook worked the counter alongside fellow clerks Nikki and Amber, handling customers day after day, the kind of steady, unremarkable presence nobody on the show thought twice about. She wasn't a headline name. She was just part of the daily rhythm of the shop. Yet just one detail about her exit was what felt the most troubling to longtime viewers. Les discovered that Christina had been pawning fake jewelry under her own name and pocketing the payout for pieces that were never real to begin with. Once the shop's staff looked closer, the scheme turned out to have been running for roughly a year, netting her more than $1,000 off the very family that had trusted her for the better part of a decade. The episode aired under the title The Inside Job, and it lived up to the name in every sense. This wasn't some stranger trying to con the pawn shop from the outside. It was someone who'd effectively been handed the keys and who used that access against the people who'd given it to her. Christina's exit didn't come with a redemption arc the way Big Joe's eventually did. There was no trucking company, no rebuilt life for cameras to follow years later. Her story ends exactly where the episode does, with her firing and with Les left to sit with just how long the betrayal had gone unnoticed, right under his own roof. But not every downfall on this list took years to build. One happened before the show even had a name. Who was that? Let's find out. Brian Jackson, Robo. Before Felix, before Hook, before Big Joe ever stepped foot in American Jewelry and Loan, there was Brian Jackson, popularly known as Robo, the very first head of security fans ever saw on screen. He wasn't introduced through some slow-burn storyline or a season of build-up. He was there from the very beginning, featured in the show's original pilot episode. Back when Hardcore Pawn wasn't even a series yet, just a one-off special testing whether Detroit's most chaotic pawn shop could hold a television audience. It didn't take long to find out Robo couldn't hold it together himself. In that same pilot, Robo showed up to work drunk, and in the chaos that followed, he bit a fellow employee, an incident so unbelievable it became the episode's actual title. There was no warning, no probation period, no second chance. Les and Seth had a pawn shop to run, and a security guard who couldn't be trusted sober wasn't part of that plan. Robo was gone almost as fast as he'd arrived, one of the very first cast members the show ever lost, and a sign, right from episode 1, that this family's patience for chaos had very real limits. Carneal Hook Steiger. Moving on from one security head to another, not every guard who left this shop went out in flames. Robo lasted one drunken night. Hook lasted 9 years. He was part of the security team fans came to know for something almost gentle by comparison. Pulling harmless pranks on customers alongside his partner, occasionally catching a warning from Les for pushing a joke too far. It was never malicious. It was just Hook being Hook, and it made him one of the more likable faces on a show built around confrontation. What set him apart wasn't the pranks, though. It was how long he stuck around. While guards like Felix and Big Joe came and went under a cloud, Hook kept showing up, season after season, quietly becoming one of the longest-serving cast members the show ever had. Then, 20 episodes into Season 8, after nearly a decade in front of the cameras, he simply stopped appearing. No blow-up, no scandal, no on-air goodbye. One of the most durable faces in hardcore pawn history was erased from the story with the same silence that took Felix, and to this day, Hook has stayed almost entirely off the grid, believed to still be living in Detroit, but otherwise untraceable. And this is where the story takes a turn you never expect. Stay tuned. James. James joined American Jewelry and Loan as a warehouse worker, one of several employees who kept the shop's inventory moving behind the scenes rather than working the counter where the cameras usually lingered. He wasn't a headline name, but by season 1, he'd already earned something valuable: Seth's trust. That trust got tested more than once. James had made mistakes on the job before, the kind that could have gotten another employee walked out the door immediately. But Seth kept going to bat for him, defending him to Les and giving him chance after chance to prove himself. That patience ran out in the episode Trouble Inside, which aired August 23, 2010. James turned violent on camera, a moment serious enough to shake the whole Gold family, especially Seth, who had spent real capital protecting him up to that point. Accounts of the incident described James punching a hole in a door in anger, and that was the end of it. He was fired on the spot, with no more chances left to give. For Seth, it wasn't just about losing an employee, it was watching someone he had vouched for prove he shouldn't have. John. And finally, we have someone who barely left a trace at all. Someone the show never gave a last name, a backstory, or a proper goodbye. Nothing much is known about him beyond a single mistake and a single choice, and that guy was John. John worked in Seth's internet department at American Jewelry and Loan, handling items too easy to overlook, until the day one of them cost the shop everything. In the episode, You're Fired, I Quit, aired June 5, 2012, John mistakenly listed a painting of Mickey Mantle for $400 instead of its real value, which was $3,000. Seth caught the error and ordered it fixed, but by then the painting had already sold at the wrong price. Les wanted him gone immediately. Seth pushed back, insisting John was one of the department's best, and got him a second chance instead. John didn't take it. He quit on the spot, walking away from the very defense that had just saved his job. Looking back, these are the kinds of stories that made this whole list what it is. Not scandal, not violence, just people who showed up, made one mistake too many, or one choice too final, and disappeared from the story as quietly as they'd entered it. That's what made their exits tragic. What do you think about these stories behind some of hardcore pawn's most unforgettable faces? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more. Click on the next video showing on your screen. You definitely do not want to miss it.